I just feel so enriched by my experiences growing up. When I think about our upbringing, we had these really, what seemed at the time, fairly outrageous dreams, impossible dreams in many respects. There were plenty of times as I got older, outside forces tried to diminish those dreams. So you're saying I should resign?
I think
that's your opinion, is that right?
That's my opinion.
Okay, fine. Those kind of moments then have an impact on people's perception of you as a manager. The one thing I've always carried throughout my whole career is passed on from my dad. Again, not words, but actions. Just work hard, Outwork the opposition, outwork everyone else that you're competing with, and you'll go a long way. I'm sitting here today probably having surpassed every dream and every aspiration I had, even as a kid.
Ange Postecoglou will make history as the first Australian to manage in the English Premier League after accepting the job with Tottenham Hotspur. The former Socceroos boss taking on one of the most prestigious but high-pressure jobs in world football.
I love this bit. I love the new challenge. I love walking into a place. I literally walk in by myself into these sort of massive football clubs, and I love the energy that brings to me. I have to make sure that all my senses are super alert to listen, to hear everything that goes on, to see everything that I need to see to make the decisions I need to make, and then to get people to believe in me.
There was uncertainty when he arrived, but he's won everywhere he's been. You look throughout his career, and it's a long career, spanning different countries, different leagues, club management, international management. But yeah, that's been one thread running through his success. He's won basically everywhere.
The magnitude of this football club is bigger than any other I've had before. I love it. It's no different here. The training ground and the stadium itself are just world class, and there's no place on earth I wouldn't want to be than right here, in this minute of trying to bring success to one of the biggest football clubs in the world.
There were plenty of challenges when Ange arrived at Spurs, but the one really big one, the one really dominant one that everyone was talking about was, can he keep hold of Harry Kane, the England captain, Tottenham's record goal scorer, talismanic figure?
To be honest, it's the same as every other club I've been at. The beginnings are always tough. I think when you go into a job, and certainly whenever I've changed, you're going in knowing that they're seeking change, and Harry's obviously the biggest one, and you just learn to deal with it. I've learned to become really disciplined to make sure that I don't just focus on one thing, I don't get distracted. The most important thing right now for us is to build a team.
I think everyone accepted it was going to be a big rebuild. It was going to be really hard without Harry Kane. And so, yes, it added to the pressure because it meant if things go badly, everyone's going to absolutely panic. You lose your best player, you start badly. But on the other hand, maybe there was a bit of understanding that this is a really difficult job this guy's walking into.
I've done FIFA World Cups, World Youth Cups, World Club Championships, Asian Champions League, Confederations Cup, you name it, I've done it. So, wherever I go, I get that there's some scepticism, but I kind of use that to my advantage, whereas maybe if I had a more traditional sort of journey and had success before, maybe that would make me complacent. So one thing I'm not, I'm never complacent.
Good morning. It looks like it's been a good day too, particularly weather-wise. Some sunny periods, dry, mild, around about 21 degrees, and weather like that for the next couple of days.
Moved to Australia when I was 5. I've got a couple of small memories growing up in Greece, but most of kind of my childhood sort of memories begin, when we got to Australia. Most of the sort of happy memories has been outside, where we lived, and kind of that time, kids had to occupy themselves. Parents were working and didn't have the time to sort of take us to things, so we had to sort of find our own ways to fill our time, and most of it was outdoors. There was nothing to do indoors.
My name's Nick Delagianis. I've known Ange since we were 8 years old, met on the first day when both our dads took us to play football, to play soccer here in Melbourne, down at South Melbourne, and we became mates on the first day and sort of hung around each other ever since, and he's gone on to global acclaim, and I'm still here in Melbourne reminiscing about the old days.
Yeah, Nick's one of my closest mates. We kind of met at South Melbourne, Hellas. We all went down to the club at the same time, probably about 8 or 9 years old, and met through that.
Yeah, I remember it vividly. They put us into two teams to play against each other, and I remember thinking, oh, he's got a bit about him. He was a little snip of a kid.
You know, back then, obviously, all similar backgrounds, migrants, looking for some sort of social setting that sort of made us all feel comfortable, particularly our parents, and the football club seemed to be that.
We were cheeky little buggers, but it all centred around sport, and we love sport, all types of sport. In Australia, we're lucky, there's a lot of sport in Australia, so, but soccer, football was the epicentre. Ange is a huge he loves devouring information about football. So we grew up every week, Shoot magazine was our staple. Anything like that, Ange would just, gravitate to, and we just read everything to inform us of the game.
These magazines tucked away in some corner of newsagents. We loved it. We'd hang out for them to come in every week, and for us it was like, it was like gold, A lot of sort of our early exposure to football on this side of the world was through those kind of experiences.
Okay, here we are. This is Andrew Street. So this is Ange's boyhood street in Paran, which is the neck of the woods we used to hang out at. Formative years, 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old, lived there with his mum and dad and his sister. We spent many a time kicking the ball in this street, off the fence, in the backyard, where he convinced me that the brick pavers were made of some shock-absorbing type of material, and I'd dive on it and kill myself. But this is where we used to hang around all the time. But the street still brings back memories. It's still the same width, the same paving, and the same road that we used to kick the ball on, so that doesn't change.
I've often said that I just feel so enriched by my experiences growing up. Parents had a real tough experience on a day-to-day basis, just getting things done, whether that was a language barrier or, different culture or different sort of circumstances. But, come sort of Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon, we'd go to Middle Park.
Oh, it was huge. It was huge. It was the highlight of the week, games at Middle Park, the old Middle Park, South Melbourne, and one of those fantastic old stadiums. There'd be a buzz around the ground. We were just like in seventh heaven.
I just felt there was a real sort of relaxing of the shoulders from my father, and just walking in and knowing that he could speak Greek, and he'd see people there who he knew who were going through similar experiences. And for us kids, that was gold.
The community was huge, and football was a real connector for us, and it also was a connector for us to be close to our dads.
It wasn't just joy. I witnessed frustration, anger. He came to life, mate, and going to the football just brought him to life, and I loved that. Maybe I'm sort of romanticising it a little bit now, but it stayed with me my whole sort of life as a guiding principle, and particularly around football.
We were just young fellas going to watch football and watching players playing. We started dreaming, could we play? Could we play for this team?
Postecoglou.
And ended up captaining and playing for the first team of South Melbourne. I went to the other big club, Heidelberg, so we became rivals from a footballing point of view.
And the header and the equaliser. Ange Postecoglou.
I'm sure he won't mind me saying that probably his greatest strength was not his defending, even though he was a defender, it was his attacking style. Let's say he was an adventurous fullback. In those days, the 4-3-3 system was probably the generic system that was played, 4 defenders at the back. And we joke that we probably at that time in 1988 invented 3 at the back, because kick-off would go and Ange would disappear over the halfway line.
Here's Postecoglou, and there's the equaliser for Ange Postecoglou.
It's no surprise now you see the way his teams play. It is that sort of entertaining, adventurous style that he likes to play, and that was him as a player. His strength as a captain was probably what you see today, in that he understood the importance of having a tight-knit group of players. He was the leader in that dressing room. So when the great French Puskas came to South Melbourne, and it was a huge moment in Australian football at that time. I think Ange probably took it on himself as much as anything to sort of attach him to Puskas.
Puskas has done it all. 3 Greek championships, and now an Australian championship with South Melbourne.
When Puskas arrived, he was, I think, in his 70s then, but an absolute legend within that Greek community, because he'd coached Panathinaikos to European Cup final, I think, in the 70s.
Ange absolutely adored him, and Ange was his chauffeur actually, because French couldn't get around Melbourne. He didn't know his way around, so Ange would pick him up every day and take him to training. So he got to know him really well, and it was just an absolute thrill for Ange to spend time like that, intimately with one of the best of all time.
He won the cup with them last year, and now they are the cream of Australian soccer, the National League champions.
The greatest lesson he taught me is just, how humble he was. We were constantly at him to tell us stories about World Cups and European Cups and Real Madrid and the Hungarian team, and he just loved sharing those stories, but in the most humble way.
Puskas calls correctly, and he has the choice of ends.
We wanted to play for him, mate, and that made an impact on me, because I think the whole sort of end game is to score more goals than the opposition was brilliant, because that's all we tried to do every week, If we conceded 3, as long as we scored 4, the boss was happy, and that stayed with me.
In hindsight, you look back on it and think that there's no doubt he was exposing himself to, an icon and legend of the game, and soaking up all the expertise that he could from him.
As much of a good player as he was, and he was a good player, he played, as I said, early at a young age for South Melbourne, a big club. He captained the club. He went on to play for the youth national teams and the senior national teams. So he was a good footballer, but he's had this inkling always that management was where he saw himself, and it sort of always was not a surprise that he'd end up like that, but I think it came quicker than we thought. He got injured about 26, 27 and stopped playing. He had a severe knee injury. And I think that sort of funneled and channeled his energy into management probably earlier than would otherwise be the case, but he didn't look back. He saw that as, this is my natural path anyhow, now I'm going to get stuck into this.
A game this season that sums up the Ange Postecoglou way of playing football. I think he would say there hasn't been a perfect performance. I think conversely, and it's a weird one to choose, but in a way, but the home defeat to Chelsea, for the first 20 minutes, Spurs were amazing. So close to going 2-0 up, Son has a goal disallowed for offside, and then it all falls apart. 2 players sent off.
Tottenham going to go down to 9 men. They are.
But they carried on playing kind of the same way. In fact, they doubled down on this kind of attacking front-footed approach. They've got 9 men and they're defending on the halfway line.
That kind of mentality is definitely something that he tries to put across to the team, and yeah, no matter the game, no matter the situation, we always try and play out football, because that's where we got our best moments.
I think people use the Chelsea game as a bit of a reference point in terms of how we reacted to adversity, and it was still very early on in the piece, and I guess at least it showed me that, in terms of the playing group and the staff, I've got buy-in into the way we want to play our football and the kind of team we want to be. Even in those extreme circumstances, they still tried to sort of implement the principles of we've been working on. So that kind of gives you that encouragement.
I think a lot of fans did fall in love with Ange after that game, yeah. I mean, I've never seen a stadium rise as one and clap the team off after a 4-1 home defeat to one of their most bitter rivals. I mean, it was extraordinary.
I guess the core component of it is they have to believe in me. If people don't believe in you as a person, they're unlikely to jump on board, whatever sort of journey you want to take them on. And so I think the one thing has been consistent with me is wherever I've been is, in the early bits when it's fair to say that most people are not sceptical, but will certainly be questioning the kind of methodology I have and the football I want to play, is that this is who I am, this is what I believe in, We're going to hit some rocky times. There'll be plenty of questions thrown at us, but we're not going to change.
Richarlison, Kulusevski. Oh, would you believe it? 100 minutes on the clock. What a turnaround.
There have been other memorable ones this season.
It's Porro.
And so much of that is about Postecoglou's mentality that you don't play the scoreboard, don't obsess with the fact that you're winning or losing or drawing or whatever. It's just keep going, keep playing the same way, and you'll get your reward. And yeah, we've seen that a few times now.
A win from nothing in the end for Ange Postecoglou's team.
I've had success my whole career wherever I've been by playing this way, and that's why I continue to do it. And every time I've changed clubs or changed teams, the question has always been, will it transfer to what some perceive a higher level or a different level or a different country? And I love proving that it can, because I've had success. I've seen no reason to change, mate, so I won't. I did sort of retire from the playing side of things fairly young at 26, 27, and in the back of my mind I always felt that was my calling anyway, to be a coach or a football manager. I think a year later I was back at the club as an assistant coach, worked for a couple of years, and then was given the head coach role, and I was just turned 31 at the time. So yeah, it was a challenging sort of first step, because they were a big club.
It's all good.
He was, in his own way, a legend at the club at that time. So the opportunity came along, and I think it was a really good fit for both him and the club. And obviously things, progressed very well from there for him.
I joined the board in mid-90s, and Ange had just been appointed as our senior coach. Prior to Ange taking over as manager, as our coach, we had only won 2 championships, although he was a player in those two. One as a player, one as a captain. So he gave a sustained period of success. His record here was exemplary over a number of years. This was an absolute fortress. And his first year, I think we finished 3rd. His second year, we won the championship.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please put your hands together for the championship coach of the 1997-98 Ericsson Cup team of South Melbourne, Mr. Postecoglou.
3rd year won the championship, and then the 4th year culminated in not only Australian champions, but then becoming Oceania champions, and then going off to Rio de Janeiro in the World Club Championships, facing off against Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United. Extraordinary stuff. But yeah, no, it was a glorious period whilst he was here.
I just remember from the moment I was appointed, I felt really comfortable in that role, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed that challenge. I enjoyed being sort of front and centre in terms of building something.
That sustained success that we had under Postecoglou has kept us relevant. Even though we haven't been in the top flight of Australian football for almost 20 years now.
Kind of set me off on a path. I think for every coach, your first job ends up being fairly significant in that it allowed me almost to learn on the job, because there's no doubt I wasn't equipped in all areas when I first got it. But, over the course of that 4 years, I became a better manager.
But yeah, he'd really put himself on the map at South Melbourne, but yeah, things are about to get a lot tougher when he takes over those Australia youth teams.
Australia are currently enjoying a golden era of footballing talent. The question is, can Postecoglou bring through the next generation of stars?
I had 7 years as kind of Australian youth team coach, under 20, under 17 coach, and those 7 years were kind of like, I call them sort of my PhD in coaching.
Again here, opportunity and
I was lucky enough to travel the world. I was lucky enough to be exposed to just about every top development system that existed, because we qualified for 6 World Youth Cups, and to have those experiences, and for 7 years it was unbelievable for me, the amount of knowledge I gained in that time.
My ambition was to play in a Youth World Cup, and Ange had a great reputation as a young coach at that point, and just his presence was something different, and it gave me a sense of wanting to really impress the coach or the manager at the time.
Bear in mind, at that time in Australian football, you'd had that golden generation of players come through, like Harry Kewell, Mark Viduka, and then it was like, well, what comes next? And that was part of what he was tasked with doing, was bringing through that next group.
He drove standards. That was the biggest difference for me as a young player, was to come across someone who knew exactly what the team needed, and especially for young players, drove such a high standard, and was someone that taught us that we shouldn't be looking for excuses.
When he took over the youth teams in Australia, the under-17s, the under-20s, I think that might have been even more of a challenge, as it turned out, than he was anticipating, because I think he was exposed to this whole world where it's about not just the football, there's politics as well. Big challenge, but probably also a really important learning curve for him.
I was a part of the team that we bowed out of the AFC Under-20 tournament, which we missed out on qualification for the Under-20 World Cup. And at that point, you know, there was a lot going on with the whole development ecosystem in Australian football, and was funding going to increase? What were the facilities going to be like? How was Australia going to produce the next generation of national team players? He was in the spotlight. But one thing about Andrew is he'd never back down. He would always face up.
Okay, let me ask you this. Are you saying to me that the performances of your team in this qualification series over the course of the games was good enough?
No.
Well,
and I take responsibility for that. So what's... Hey? So what do you want me to do? What do you want me to say?
Well, I think you should put your hand up and walk out, because you're paid to qualify the team and you haven't done it twice.
That probably says more about you than it does about me. Yeah, I've said all along, to me, I didn't like it. I still don't like it. I just don't think that there was any purpose to it. Not for me, not for Craig. Those kind of moments then have an impact on, you know, your immediate future in terms of, you know, people's perception of you and of me as a manager, and it kind of sort of stifled opportunities.
After Ange leaves those youth jobs with Australia, he enters this kind of weird wilderness period. He goes and manages in the Greek third tier. He manages for Whittlesea Zebras, kind of a suburban Australian team. He's doing coaching clinics in Melbourne.
I knew that at some point an opportunity would come, and when Brisbane came along, it was perfect. All this knowledge I'd attained for 7 years, plus the experience I'd had at South, gave me sort of a blank landscape to build the kind of team that, you know, I had sort of envisaged in my head from the moment I started coaching.
Brisbane Roar is one of the foundation clubs for what was consumed as the new A-League, and really put the club on the map. And at that time, I believe that from a fan's perspective of football in Australia, this was the benchmark. This was the club that everyone sort of looked at, and they were playing a brand of football that no one had really been able to achieve yet, which was an attacking, high-pressing, skillful type of football. But what it also showed was, in that era, the club produced a lot of Queensland's best young talent who went on to become very successful footballers and national team players.
Enrique against Ryan. It's all on this. Enrique scores! Brisbane are champions! Ange Postecoglou's team claim the championship to go with the premiership.
We had success, obviously, but the football we played was, I think, what people most remember about my time there, and that was because I was able to put all the knowledge and experience I gained into that project.
He wins back-to-back A-League titles. He goes on an incredible unbeaten run. I think it's 36 matches. And bear in mind, this is a salary cap league designed to stop that level of domination. He's doing things that just shouldn't really be possible, and he's doing it playing football in this amazingly entertaining, attractive way. Brisbane Roar get the nickname Roor-salona as a kind of homage to Pep Guardiola's Barcelona team of that time.
I really had a belief in myself in creating teams that hopefully could make an impact. And to be honest, if it didn't happen at Brisbane, I would have probably ended up going overseas and starting a career there. I think that allowed then to, whatever happens afterwards, is to kind of get some momentum into the career I wanted to have.
That Brisbane Roar period set the tone for so much of what's come since. I think at the time, Ange leaving Brisbane Roar for Melbourne Victory was a big surprise. If you look at his career, he doesn't really stay anywhere for too long. He's always looking for a new challenge. He never wants to get stagnant, never wants to get stale, wants to keep challenging himself. Obviously, there's the Melbourne angle as well, which is his home city. But now, looking back on it, you think, yeah, that's quite a Postecoglou thing to do.
So perhaps around about 10:45, 15 minutes, and then I got a call from an agent saying would I be interested in a job that was coming up at a Premier League club as an assistant manager. Found out it was Spurs and it was Ange, and we had a conversation on the phone on like a video call, and had a good chat about his vision, his plan, how I could fit into that. I knew instantly. I'd heard a lot of good things about Ange anyway from people I knew, and obviously had seen his work at various clubs and been really impressed with the journey he'd had. So I was very excited to say yes.
I think it's an easy decision to come on board with the manager because of how he is, how he wants his teams to play, and how he works, and the environment that he creates. It feels like we're on the start of a journey to be successful, so hopefully that can continue.
His pre-match motivational meetings are very good, and I think sometimes that can go under the radar. Of course, the manager and the players, and getting a reaction from the players, which is ultimately is vital. It's important. I don't think he just wants to win trophies. I think he wants to do it in a consistent way that can consistently win for many years to come. And again, I can relate to that.
It was a massive part of, again, successful period for myself personally within the national team. Obviously at the time he made me captain, and something that I'll always be indebted for, and something that we lived together very fondly.
Remember what we're trying to do today. We're trying to attract to defend good and always use the space. We've always got destiny. I can't make you any fight for me.
I've often said that my biggest frustration with Australian football was that there wasn't enough opportunities, and when I got over here, I also realised just how tough it is for Australians, even the ones based over here, to get an opportunity. So if I can open doors for them, not because they're Australians, because I think they deserve it, they deserve an opportunity.
Okay, lads, 3 groups. Defenders with Wellesley, midfielders with me, wingers, strikers over here with me. 10 minutes.
There's obviously components in training whereby each of the coaches and the staff are going to take their part, and I think from our perspective, it's, although you might be hearing one voice or one person lead as such, it's very much a collaborative approach, and we're always bouncing ideas off each other, and which is what you want, really, I guess.
I think it's been really good because we all split it. Wellesley and Millet, they do the defensive work, and me and Chris do a lot of the attacking work, but the group stuff is split from day to day. We all do different things, and I think it just allows us to have a good flow to the session.
Yeah. Run, lads, run, yes, man.
The boss is very clear with us that in terms of any problems with individuals, whether that's with sort of on the pitch or off the pitch, with family or any sort of difficulties they're having in their lives, he expects us to have real tight control over our groups of designated players, and I think that really frees the manager up to focus on all the team aspects and deliver his team meetings where he's very inspirational. But yeah, thankfully I think each of our staff have probably earned his trust, and now it's about repaying that.
Hey, move up, okay, we're still making you run. Now Radu has the problem.
The hardest thing to do is to remain sort of consistent amongst all the noise from the outside and the emotions that go with winning and losing in this environment that we're in every day. And it's a game of opinions. You've got so many opinions internally, externally, that to remain so consistent, you have to be really, really strong and secure in what you're doing. And I think that's the sense you get with Ange, is that he is that, and he's proven to be that over many, many years of management. So it makes my job really easy because I know exactly what he wants from his team, and he doesn't put any constraints on how I create my coaching sessions or anything. It's just, he knows how he wants the team to look. I know that, and the players know that, and it's about everybody working towards that goal.
You know, I'm getting older, and you know, I kind of work with younger people every time I kind of move, because I think it keeps me sort of better aligned to what the players that I'm working with are thinking about and the experiences they have. So I know that it's going to require a lot of energy and a lot of, you know, like I said, enthusiasm to get to where we want to. And yeah, I've been really lucky here. You know, the guys that I've brought in are a standing group and do a great job, and more importantly, really sort of determined to make sure we bring success.
If I was to sum the boss up in one word, I'd probably say convincing.
A winner.
Consistency.
Consistency and clarity.
I'd say assured.
I guess the most pleasing thing for me is just seeing how the players and the staff have embraced kind of what we're going to try and do, because everything's changed, obviously, the way we train, the way we play, and as long as that willingness continues to be there, and that'll get challenged, because if things don't go well, you know, everyone will start questioning things. But as long as we continue with that, then we'll get to where we want to. Sort of an unexpected time for me. I didn't think I would jump back into national team coaching that quickly. But, you know, when it came along, it's a difficult job to knock back, you know.
I never knew Ange till he came to the Australian team. I knew that he was coaching in Australia. I knew that he had a great pedigree. But when you listen to him, everything he talks about is simple and it's logic. He likes game minutes, match minutes. He wants ball in play. He wants action, intensity, and this is what we want as players.
Come on, what's up? Come on!
There was a lot happening and some exciting opportunities, but I enjoyed it enormously, particularly the first sort of 18 months, 24 months where I still went to the World Cup.
Australia go to that 2014 World Cup in a really, really hard group with Chile and Spain, Holland, Spain being the reigning World Cup holders. Holland in particular, they lead against them 2-1 up.
Jedinak, the Australian captain, to put his country in front. 2-1 Australia.
They ultimately lose 3-2, but it's very Postecoglou, the whole thing. It's we're not going to take a backward step. We're not going to go in as the kind of plucky underdogs. We're going to go and give it a good go. And they do. They end up losing those games, but it does, I think, imbue the players with a certain level of belief going into the Asia Cup the following January.
Ange come to Australia in a time when we had a lot of the old generation and the new coming through. And Ange come in and made a lot of big decisions. So you kept players like me, Marco Bresciano, Mark Milligan, Mile Jedinak. And so he taught me how to be a footballer again, and he re-energised me playing for the national team.
Australia winning the Asia Cup was a really big achievement. I don't think it was necessarily a huge surprise in some ways because they were one of the stronger teams, but it was big. It was the first time they'd done it, and again, done playing the way he wanted to play.
I wasn't surprised because I got to go through the processes, and the way that you can look at a coach is you look at first the presence that they have, second training, the setup, everything was measured, calculated. There's a clear methodology. You know, there's a style and there's non-negotiables. What I love with Ange is very honest and he's very detailed. And if we do this, this is potentially the outcome. If we step back, then there's going to be trouble.
It was very different for me. You know, when you're together as a group, it's fantastic. Everything is just so intense, and for those days you're together, but then the players all go back to their football clubs and you're kind of left as national team manager just with a lot of time on your hands. And after a while, that gets really challenging. But we qualified for the Russia World Cup in 2018, and again, working with Australia's best players was a really enjoyable experience.
Let's go.
Postecoglou's rousing team talks are legendary amongst players throughout his career, and I've spoken to many of them, and they all have different memories of speeches he's given.
11 guys, Aussie shirts. What does it mean? Don't tell me it means more than us. I don't believe it. Just you go out there and you show it. Next 45 minutes, you score again, and we keep it going right till the 95th minute. We score again. All right? Come on, let's go.
He speaks from his heart and he speaks the truth. So I think as players, that's all we want. We just want honesty and a man who can motivate us and try and get the best out of it.
And as something said, leadership is not just him. We've got experienced players within this group. We know what it looks like to be successful. Knows what we need to do. So it's not just about the calendar, and it's not just leadership. The leadership can come from the youngest players in the team.
He's got this amazing ability to read the room and find the thing that really motivates them, and it's massive.
You think about the person in your life, somebody in your life that when you started believed in you more than anyone else.
Well done, Trent!
They're the ones that made the sacrifices. They're the ones that pushed you. Think about that person. Think about how that person's going to feel when we win tonight. For me, the ability to kind of tell stories that resonates with the group that's in front of me just helps you in that purpose, because then they get a better understanding of me as a person.
And Ange doesn't step back, and he's got a really beautiful story and a really nice way about him. And you see the way he communicates with the players now. I've had many moments when I played my 100th game and he gave me the captain's armband, and he had the room with all the players, everyone in the night before. He gave it to me and he put a presentation on a story of my life growing up as a kid.
Everyone in the world knows who this bloke is. That little kid is this bloke. And he's done that all by himself, overcoming every challenge.
I was in tears. A lot of the people in the room were in tears.
Your credit to yourself, mate, your nation, your family. Congratulations, mate.
When Ange went to Tottenham, one of my comments to Tottenham's leadership was, he'll find your identity. You'll play for something. And that's what they needed.
Yeah, that's a key part of everything I do at the beginning, is not just the players, the staff, the people I work with at the football club, even the supporters, that they gather some sort of belief in me as a person, that, okay, he's all in on this, so if he's all in on this, we're going to be all in as well.
And for you, the best on the planet, unbelievable.
He's got this real fantastic leadership DNA where his fingerprints are over everything. He's on top of every aspect.
You've embraced me. You've embraced my family.
He's a fantastic person. He's very loyal to those closest to him.
And I want everyone to enjoy today, enjoy the summer, and we'll come back bigger, better, because we never stop.
Respect is the big word. You'll always hear massive respect for Ange with any player that's ever played for him and anyone that's ever worked with him. So he's got that uncanny leadership ability to balance the two sides, which is really important, I think.
I think his success at Yokohama was huge, both for the supporters of the club, also for him, and him realising that he could go and work in a country where he didn't speak the language. And I think for the supporters, seeing someone come in and playing in a very different way to maybe what they've been used to, and it took some time. The first season they nearly got relegated, so the fans had to be patient.
Japanese football's strong. When we were, even in our first pre-season, we were playing universities that were at a level of really surprised. So the depth of football is really strong here. So, and that was a real good learning experience for us, because we had to transmit our message certain ways or different ways But ultimately it's coming about connecting to the player, connecting to the person and connecting them to a belief in to do something.
It was an unbelievable experience for me in that, you know, I had used communication as a pretty powerful tool up until that point, and then it's taken away from you, and you got to get creative. And I learned to do some pretty basic stick figures to illustrate a message, which I found was pretty powerful while telling a story.
So we come in here with a mentality to be better, to improve, to play our football, to not be worried about what other people are saying.
With language taken away, I was still able to sort of create that environment where players who've more often than not didn't have a clue what I was saying still understood the message.
それはもうピッチ、練習場、トレーニング場でボスが入ってきた瞬間に空気が変わる。これはみんな言います。やっぱりそれだけのものをやっぱり醸し出すというか、そうですね。言ったらオーラ。それが1年目はうまくいかなかったけども、2年目にはしっかりと結果として出てるのは、そういう形が間違いない、うまくいってるっていう証だと。いや、もう2004年以来の優勝なので、それはもう監督来てくれてよかったっていう思いはすごいんじゃないですかね。
Our intent was to change the way Japanese football was played, which was conservative, a bit slower, and we've come in and turned it on its head. And the impact that that's had, Marinos, 2018, 2019, obviously winning the title, you see a ripple effect the next year and the year after, and now it's changed the way the game's played here in Japan, not only in J1, but the lower leagues as well, J2, J3, and the universities as well.
Irrespective of what cultures we come from, what upbringings we have or values we have, there are some common themes there around, you know, building something special, selling a dream that resonates with everybody, you know, and that's what I tried to sort of test myself in that environment.
クラブ全体は結構ショックだったとは思いますよね。やっぱりね、チャンピオンにもなって、こう志向してるサッカーがようやく根付いてきた部分であるので、ファンサポーターもっていう多分驚きだったと思います。ただボス自身のキャリアを考えると、やっぱり自分の夢や、そういうものにかけていく部分は当然わかるし、それはやっぱり送ってあげないといけないなっていうふうには僕個人も思ったし。
I loved my time in Japan. I had 3.5 fantastic years there. We ended up being champions after the club, you know, hadn't been champions for 15 years. So, and again, played some fantastic football. So, and that gave me even more sort of self-belief about my, you know, the kind of methods I was using and the football I played that could transfer to a totally different culture. And, you know, sort of after 3.5 years, Celtic, you know, we're looking for a new manager.
Well, I think there's not probably too many, if I've been honest, out there who had a great knowledge of him. You know, you have the guys who maybe have been in certain areas would know of him, but I think the majority of Celtic fans wouldn't have known very much about him when he arrived. But, you know, I think they quickly seen the type of character he was, what he was hoping to try and achieve, and they got on board with that.
We need movement so the next pass is always available and not too many touches on the ball. Good football! Jack!
Well, the pressure here is there's not too many clubs, I think, in terms of expectation, media, the drive in order to win here is absolutely huge. But here you still have to win every single week, home and away, whether it's against your rivals or not.
Just get it into your heads. We never stop. We never stop. We'll stop at half-time and we'll stop at the end of the game when we celebrate. But during the game, we don't stop.
I've been involved in games in the Premier League where you've maybe had your playing against one of your rivals away and you make a draw and it's deemed a good result. Here at Celtic, it's never that. It's about winning, and so that pressure and that intensity is huge.
You realise the rivalries beyond anything else that exists in the world, I believe, because you kind of know that those two clubs are always battling for just two positions, first to second, but second is last. I think the experience at Celtic Park was amazing. It was one of the best nights of my football career because, you know, we were second going into that game. The atmosphere was unbelievable. It was a full house. We ended up winning 3-0 and going top that night, in my first year. And it was just the whole atmosphere and like I said, afterwards you realise just why it is a special game.
He was always asking the players for more and more and more, and then when you have a manager who's so demanding like that, and you have a group of players with the ability to match that, then you see in the second season we go on and do the treble, and we've had 5 teams that have won the treble here, and the special teams are the ones that win trebles.
He brought his philosophy to the team and had a fantastic time here. People were doubting him at the beginning, asking questions of his qualities, but no, it was never in doubt. Once he got going and once he got the feel of everything, he done a brilliant job here.
I had a fantastic time at Celtic. We had great success.
I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the support you've given me, the players, and everyone else. And we'll enjoy tonight, and then we'll come back Saturday, and we'll enjoy it again.
In the 2 years I was there, I think we won 5 out of the 6 trophies. It's not why I stay in the positions I am. It's not about the success. It's about what the next challenge may be. And every time I've made that decision, it's because I felt that there's another challenge, another experience for me as a manager and as a person. And after 2 great years at Celtic, the opportunity to manage one of the biggest football clubs in the world came along, and again I thought it was a great challenge for me and a great opportunity for another experience in my career.
Son twisting away from Cash, it's Werner and it's 4. Tottenham are running riot.
Coming to Tottenham, yes, of course, this is the most challenging league in the world, the best teams in the world, in this competition. But I've got a pretty good squad here. I've got a massive football club behind me, resources. So the challenge is still the same. It's about staying true to the stuff I believe will get us success.
Ange will tell you he'll get better every day. His team will get better every day. People around him will get better every day because that's the way he sets things up. He's very driven on improving any club that he's been at. So he'll keep getting better, which is scary. His teams will keep getting better, which is scary. But I've got no doubt it's how he's lived his whole life and his whole career.
I think he can go probably as far as he wants, in the sense that he's now on the world stage. So he's now got the reputation, he's known, he's achieving. But I think he has always been prepared to challenge himself quite clearly. And I think that's what motivates him.
He done a fantastic job throughout his career, whether it was national team job or Japan or here at Celtic or on Tottenham. It's been great and refreshing to see him go in, do ever so well, and I'm pretty sure that will continue.
Ange is ready, he's a gentleman, but he's a football academic. That's what I'd like to say. He's someone that gets the players to play and he'll clean the club. He needs time, but to work with him, and even till this day to talk with him and to have the communication and his mentorship, for me is priceless.
The one thing I've always carried throughout my whole career is passed on from my dad, again, not words, but actions, just, work hard, outwork the opposition, outwork everyone else that you're competing with, and you go a long way, and I've never lost sight of that. As much as I love what I do and I'm passionate about it, I'm going to put in the hours, and I'm going to put in more hours than anyone else.
And still some funny stories about his dad. Doesn't matter how well the team's done, he'll come home looking for that seal of approval, and he always said, yeah, you did well, but you could have done this better, and never the ball in the air. If the ball was in the air, you go, no good. Ange took that through his whole career, obviously, and still does that. And this is the Ange Postecoglou field. Alan Davidson was another legend of Australian football. 2 legends of the club, South Melbourne, but also Australian football. And they've put his name on where the old stadium was, Middle Park Stadium. So forever, he'll be indelibly connected to Australian football and to this club.
I think Postecoglou will keep going up and up and up. He's been doubted everywhere he's been, but he's generally found the answers. And I think if you are a club that is willing to take some punches, as is going to happen, as Spurs have this season, if you can take that longer view, then I think you will have success.
Oh, super proud. Super proud. I love the journey, and the best thing about Ange is he doesn't forget where he's come from. He'll say, this is our journey, like this is what we dreamed about, and he's always about the we and all of us that are close to him. Like, so he's just a super bloke. So no one deserves it more than him, but what he's doing is just, blowing everyone's mind. But we kind of aren't surprised, and at the same time, absolutely stoked for him. When I think about our upbringing, Nick and myself, we had these really, what seemed at the time, fairly outrageous dreams. Impossible dreams in many respects. And there were plenty of times where, not when I was younger, but as I got older, outside forces tried to diminish those dreams. They were really impossible. And yet, I'm sitting here today probably haven't surpassed every dream and every aspiration I had even as a kid. And the one thing I'd sort of go back and say is just don't change anything. Just keep having those dreams.